The shift happens quietly, not with chaos, but realization. The city still stands, yet it now belongs to those watching. Streets are no longer safe, they're risks. Crossing even a short distance becomes dangerous. Reasons to move don't matter. The real mistake is believing speed will get someone safely through unseen danger. Speed gets you seen, not saved. The instinct to move fast feels right, but it backfires. Speed creates noise, and in a silent city, sound travels far. That noise draws attention, and attention leads to pursuit. The problem is, watchers know the terrain far better. What starts as a quick escape turns into a dangerous chase. Speed doesn't protect, it increases risk. Darkness isn't a cloak. Then there's the second instinct. Wait for night. On the surface, it makes sense. Darkness feels like protection. It hides movement. It softens outlines. But the kind of darkness in a collapsed city isn't the same darkness people are used to. Without artificial lights, the human eye adapts far more than expected. Shapes become clearer. Movement becomes easier to detect. And contrast becomes the real enemy. A silhouette against a slightly brighter background stands out immediately. A figure crossing open ground under moonlight? Visible, even from a distance. Darkness doesn't make someone invisible. It just changes how visibility works. And anyone who's been sitting still long enough, letting their vision adjust, has an advantage over anyone moving through that darkness. So moving at night without understanding that shift? That's just trading one kind of exposure for another. Movement isn't continuous. It's fragmented. The biggest shift in mindset is this. Crossing a hostile city is not one continuous journey. It's a series of controlled, deliberate movements broken into segments, short distances, planned pauses, constant reassessment. Think of it less like walking and more like navigating a series of invisible checkpoints. Every stretch of movement has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And between each of those, there's observation. Because observation is what prevents mistakes. And mistakes in this environment don't just slow things down, they end things. The route that looks wrong is usually right. The shortest path across a city used to be simple. Follow the main road, cut straight through, reach the destination efficiently. That thinking doesn't survive in a watched city. Now, the safest path is almost never the shortest one. The safest path bends, detours, doubles back, avoids the obvious. Instead of asking, what's the fastest way there? The real question becomes, where am I least likely to be seen? And that changes everything. Wide streets become liabilities. Open areas turn into exposure zones. Intersections stop being convenient and start being dangerous. The route that works is the one that hugs structures, that stays close to walls, that moves through the spaces most people ignore. And those spaces, they're everywhere, just not where people are used to looking. Understanding the invisible paths. Every city has layers. There's the visible layer everyone uses daily. Streets, sidewalks, entrances. And then there's the hidden layer. The spaces behind buildings, narrow alleys, service corridors, gaps between structures, overlooked backyards, maintenance routes, drainage paths. These aren't designed for movement. But in a hostile environment, they become the only places that allow it. Because visibility defines danger. And these spaces exist outside most direct lines of sight. A person moving down the center of a street can be seen from dozens of angles. A person moving along the backside of a building? Almost none. That difference is everything. Dead space, the city's blind spots. There's a concept that changes how movement works entirely. Dead space. It's not about darkness. It's not about hiding in shadows. It's about geometry. Dead space exists anywhere a structure blocks line of sight. Behind walls, around corners, along the backside of buildings, between obstacles that interrupt vision from key angles. From certain positions, these areas simply don't exist visually. That means someone standing in a window overlooking a street might see everything in front, but nothing directly behind the row of buildings. Someone watching an intersection might control the entire crossing, but not the narrow path running just out of view beside it. Dead space isn't rare. It's constant, but it requires awareness to recognize, because instinct tells people to move through open, easy paths. And in this kind of environment, open and easy usually means exposed. A different way to look at movement. Before stepping into any new area, the most important question isn't where to go. It's who can see this space, and from where. That question changes behavior instantly. Windows stop being background details and start becoming potential observation points. Rooftops turn into threats. Even distant angles start to matter. Because it's not about whether someone is there. It's about whether someone could be. And if the answer is yes, then that space isn't safe to move through without a plan. So instead of stepping out and hoping for the best, movement becomes conditional. Wait, watch, adjust, then move. Open spaces are where mistakes happen. No matter how careful the route is, there will always be moments where cover disappears. A street has to be crossed. A gap between buildings has to be navigated. An open stretch becomes unavoidable. These moments are the most dangerous, not because they're frequent, but because they're exposed. Everything that was controlled before suddenly isn't, and this is where behavior matters most. Rushing through an open space without preparation turns a manageable risk into a visible event. Stopping halfway through makes it worse, because motion can blend in. Stillness in the wrong place stands out. The difference between being noticed and ignored often comes down to how those few seconds are handled. Observation before commitment. Before crossing any exposed area, time needs to slow down. Not physically, mentally. A pause of a couple minutes can reveal things that movement would miss. Subtle shifts, reflections, small sounds, a figure moving behind a window, a shadow appearing where there wasn't one before, a faint noise that doesn't belong. These details don't announce themselves. They have to be noticed. And that only happens when there's a deliberate choice to stop and look. Because once movement starts, those details disappear. And so does the chance to react to them. Sound travels further than expected. In a quiet city, sound behaves differently. Without traffic, without crowds, without constant background noise, even small disturbances become noticeable. A single misstep on gravel, a crunch of glass, a shift in debris. All of it carries. And unlike visual detection, sound doesn't require direct line of sight. Someone doesn't need to see movement to know it's happening. They just need to hear it. That's why the surface matters. Crossing clean pavement isn't the same as crossing broken ground. And noticing that difference before stepping into it? That's the kind of awareness that prevents problems before they start. Lower profile, lower risk. When crossing open ground, posture changes everything. Standing upright creates a recognizable human silhouette. That shape is easy to identify even at a distance. Lowering that profile reduces visibility immediately. Not completely, but enough to matter. It breaks the outline, makes movement less obvious, blends it into the environment more effectively. And combined with smooth, continuous motion, it creates ambiguity. Because uncertainty is protection. If someone isn't sure what they saw, they're less likely to act on it. Movement shouldn't attract attention. There's a difference between being seen and being noticed. A quick movement at the edge of vision might register. But if it doesn't trigger interest, it gets ignored. That's the goal. Not invisibility, but insignificance. Moving in a way that doesn't demand attention. Because attention is what turns a passing observation into a problem. Buildings are not barriers. Most people think in terms of going around obstacles. In a hostile city, that thinking creates unnecessary exposure. Buildings aren't just things to navigate around. They're opportunities to move through. An empty structure can provide cover for an entire block. Instead of crossing a street, movement shifts inside. Enter from one side, exit from another. And just like that, distance is covered without exposure. But this comes with its own risks. Because not every building is empty. And entering the wrong one? Not every building is usable. Some are occupied, some are unstable. Some create more risk than they remove. The key isn't just using buildings. It's using the right ones. Awareness doesn't switch on and off. It doesn't come in bursts before movement and disappear once things feel stable. It has to stay active the entire time. Every step, every pause, every moment in between. Because the environment isn't fixed. It shifts without warning. A path that looked empty seconds ago can change. A blind spot can open. A quiet space can carry something new. That's why observation isn't something done once and trusted. It's something that keeps updating, constantly. Every angle rechecked, every detail reconsidered. Not because everything is a threat, but because the smallest overlooked change is usually the one that matters. And the closer the end gets, the more dangerous that mindset becomes. There's a natural drop in intensity. The distance is almost covered. The tension starts to fade. That's where mistakes slip in. Not from pressure, but from relief. The final stretch feels easier, but nothing actually changed. The same exposure is still there. The same risks still exist. Rushing now doesn't save time. It just removes control. And control is the only reason the crossing works at all. Moves strategically assuming constant surveillance, avoiding patterns and exposure, staying fragmented and unrecognizable, surviving by never giving observers anything clear to track. If this breakdown changed how movement in a hostile environment is understood, make sure to subscribe and stick around for more deep dives like this. There's a lot more to uncover about survival, strategy, and the hidden rules that most people never think about until it's too late.